Yo, swinging and banging on the ones and twos. Allow me to reintroduce myself to you. I'm Kendrick Avant, your agent of gratitude, living mindset over bullshit because I slide into any situation. And I share these stories to help you be better. I leave you with tools to be better. I'm teaching you how to be better, how to accept reality, how to grow a new perspective. On this podcast, I like to interview people who are so interesting, they take my mind away from the fact that I have primary progressive multiple sclerosis. I want to interview people who are so interesting, I forget all the bills banging at the front door. That I don't mind the fact that kids haven't done all their chores. This is what my podcast is about. Interviewing people who are so wild out, so interesting, so crunk, so cool, that for a little minute, I damn near forget I have a chronic illness. Rock with me every week and see who I'm talking about. All right, yeah, Queen, look, a thousand thank yous for rocking with me. I got this thing going on this, it's now just called the Kendrick Avant interviews. I used to call it All Things One Love. I called it Disabled, but I switched up a few times, and man, I'm at the point now, Queen, where I just don't, I'm no longer trying to hide or switch shit up or code switch or code talk any damn more. I'm just gonna be me. And that's it.
The smoke, the best thing to do because you yourself is so authentic.
Appreciate that.
Who wouldn't want to be a part of this? So yeah, of course. Anything I could do to help, support, look, I'm here. I'm here for it.
Yeah, man. Yo, you know what? I had to bring you on too because I want to talk this week on my podcast about people who do the work from home, about anybody who has to do any type of customer service, any type of telephone sales, the environment, all the pressure and stress they put on you. And man, when I started this thing up, it was me and you. And it's like it was maybe 5 or 6 of us at first. But I mean, just from the talking and everything from day one, I knew like, yeah, I can fuck with her. Yeah, I can fuck with her. That's the homegirl right there. And I knew I wasn't gonna ever let your ass go.
No, we keep in touch. We might go a few days, a few weeks without it. I'm like, hey bro, what's up? You good?
Yep.
Everything all right?
Yep, I definitely
right yeah, I say you stuck with me now. You're stuck with me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I really believe that. I've gotten so far into this whole self-help shit and looking at stuff from another perspective. I really believe that type of stuff where you have met people before in a previous life and you feel the energy just like, yeah, I know this motherfucker. Like, I know this, like some of the life we were either brothers and sisters, warriors. I don't know what the hell we did.
Yeah, we had to be.
Yo, man, yeah, we are way too aligned.
So we will have the same thoughts, and we in different states. We'll type it out. It was like, oh, just gonna say that.
Just like that, just like doing all the thing about Microsoft Teams. Like every time I'm gonna say something, she already got the same thought out. You see me with the text, man. Yo, dude, I was thinking that same shit. Hell yeah, man, Queen, I was having a good time. We're having a good ass time talking. Let me be quiet and allow you to introduce yourself to my audience. Just tell them your name, who you are, where you're at, anything that you want to share.
Okay, no problem. Hello, listeners. My name is DeShontay. I am 29 years old. I live in South Florida. Just don't assume I'm rich because I live in South Florida and rent is super expensive. But I manage. I have a daughter. She is Emily. She's 7 years old. Me and her father are separated, pending divorce because the whole COVID situation really did like pause everything for a while. But it's starting right back up. No. Some things are good. I have grown so much better with the separation than we would have did together. So I'm grateful for that. That's basically. I work from home. I'm a Medicare consultant. So if you are a Medicare recipient, you're probably speaking to someone like me. 9 times out of 10 if you answer an ad on Facebook. But other than that, I mean that's it. Like food, drink. I'm getting ready to start traveling more. But yeah, that's basically me.
Yo, I love that. I got a couple of questions to start off. Before we even, I always send people a 6-pack of questions and everything. That way we know how the interview goes, and we can just spin off into any direction.
Right.
But from your intro, because I've already had a couple of queens that are going through things right now, and they are considering divorce. Is there anything that you know, like in your heart, that you can just say, look, I knew it was time when I started feeling X, or I knew it was time to go when X happened? Was there anything specific or anything like that you know, like that was the time, like, you know what, no more waffling, I'm out this shit?
Yeah. So you get to a point where your partner isn't, your partner is stagnant. No growth, no decline, just stagnant. And that's an okay space to be in. But when you're propelling or you're trying to grow and you're trying to better yourself, and they rather do something that doesn't even help them mentally, physically, emotionally, growth-wise, they're, and it's okay because we all have those periods of rest. But sometimes, like, okay, so I was trying to be like, oh, well, let me just give like a broad scenario. I'm just going to lay my situation out. I was working at a casino doing 16-hour shifts for probably like 2 weeks back to back, less than 8 hours off the clock, less than that sleeping, because I had a daughter, we shared together.
Yeah.
He was using the money, spending it on weed, which isn't a problem, but it becomes an addiction once you prioritize getting high versus cleaning up, washing yourself, feeding your daughter, paying bills. So we were going through an eviction. So my whole goal was, okay, we'll stay here until we get evicted, and then I'll just get an apartment in my name. So I was ramping up to make sure I had my pay stubs matched. Down here, you need to make 2 times the rent. So that was already difficult. So I was already, struggling like that. And he has family members who isn't used to living on their own. Like, they all live together in like little hubs, which is fine. It's hard out here. I do not take that down from nobody, but that's all they want to do. None of them wants to like branch off. None of them want to grow individually. They just wanted to live off each other, which is not a problem. The issue was when his sister and her kids, 3 kids, and her dog and her dad moved in with us in a 1-bedroom apartment. That's a whole lot to take on top of that. Yeah. And the reason why they were in this situation was because he had an apartment for them, his sister and his grandma, which is fine. But I told him to take his name off the apartment. He didn't listen. That's something, he never listened to what I have to say. But so when they got evicted for non-payment, they just like, we don't want you. Even if they had the money, they were like, no, we just want our space back. We'll just keep tenants that can pay regularly. They went through the eviction process about 3 times since they were there, probably in less than a year span for non-payment. And this is before COVID, so it wasn't like, the eviction protection was in place. It was nothing like that. And so they already have toxic ways, all of them. Everybody does. I'm probably very toxic myself. But when you wake up and your first thought is to drink, get high, before you brush your teeth, before you get the crust out your eye, before you use the bathroom in the morning. And that's like a bodily function. You got to pee when you wake up. Your first intuition is to spark up. That's a problem. Okay. Yeah. And they got evicted in his name because that was his apartment. Mind you, he already has an eviction going through on the apartment that we currently have because of his addiction.
That's 2 of them.
So this will be his 3rd one. So basically, all of their toxic traits just mingled together, and I started doing my own thing, which is like working more hours. It got to the point where I was staying some nights like, hey, is Emily taken care of? Is Emily okay? Is she, and then I would just stay at work. I was working nonstop. I basically lived a job. 16 hours was the most we could work at the casino I was at, but I was in the break room sleeping because we had like those little spaces for people who worked at 3 a.m, like myself. So yeah. And once his sister started to influence his decision, that was like strike 1. Well, strike 2 for me. That was strike 2. Strike 3 was when he's decided to put his hands on me.
Oh, hell
and gratefully that my daughter wasn't there when that happened. But he allowed his sister to also put her hands on me. And that's when I made up my mind. That was when the decision was final to me. Because even though my daughter wasn't there when it happened, it still happened in front of her kids, her 3 youngest kids. So I was like, you know what? This is somebody in his life that he cannot cut out, or he won't cut out. This is somebody in his life that he willingly chooses to be tethered to. I'm going to remove myself from the situation and see what happens. So in that span, I left with nothing to my name, no car, because we had a shared car, but his sister was, so I left no car, just the job that paid like $11 an hour, and that was it to my name. 2 years later,
you did the whole Tina Turner thing then. You did like Tina Turner and just say, you know what, fucking I'm out.
That's what I had to do, because he was starting to affect me. He was starting to influence me. And being with him wasn't always like that. Now, we've had like little fight stuff before, but it never got to the point where he was holding me down while his sister was attacking me. That's kind of was my last straw. Yeah. And we've already went to court. Everything's been settled. They took a plea deal. Everything's handled, because I pressed charges, and I kept those charges until the very week of trial. And, you know, they took a plea deal. They had probation. Everything's coming to like a close now, which didn't really help because we have a daughter. So my restraining order basically means nothing to the judge when I didn't want any contact, and I wanted everything to go through like a third party. But we've definitely gotten to a better place now as co-parenters than we were in like a romantic relationship. I have grown more on my own than I would have with him, because at this moment, he doesn't have his own place, which is going to be hard for him to get because of the 3 evictions on his name. He doesn't have, he does have a job. He works. He does pay child support, which is only enough for daycare. I still pay for clothes, food, everything. I don't get food, like food assistance or anything like that. Like I do everything for our daughter as much as possible. She has to get braces. That's coming out of my pocket, not his. So I don't want to, you're depending on stamps. That's not the situation here. But yeah, once I realized that I can grow more on my own and benefit not just myself, but my daughter as well on my own, then together with him, that's when I was like, yeah, it's official. I need to move on.
Yeah, that right there. That right there is good shit. That right there is good shit. Man, Queen, check this out. So as this is all going on, and I don't mean to make this sound like I'm only here about.
Oh no, please! Oh come on, you know I'm not like that. Go ahead.
Okay, so you're going through this, and it's at this point where everything is now going through the court system. You're struggling. There were some times when you may have struggled with the finances and everything. What do you do to keep your mindset together? Because I got a sister that goes through this. I got so many students that go through this. What are some tricks and things that you do to keep your mind together when you know this regular ass dude is not doing his part? Everything is on you. It's so many queens that are going through this. What are some things that you do to keep your feet just moving forward?
So I'm a type of person, I am like my dad in a sense where I bury myself in work. So once we separated, it was like, bam, the pandemic hit. I got 3 jobs, was working 3 jobs physically back and forth, just doing that. I will drown myself in work as long as I know my daughter is being taken care of. I do have some toxic traits and I have some positive traits. I feel like working is positive, but the amount of work that I will take on by myself is toxic because I didn't allow myself rest or growth or anything. I have to keep moving. I have to keep my brain turning. But I feel like my positive point was the fact that I'm resourceful, that I won't just take whatever I'm getting lying down. I never have. They call it like a rebellious teenager phase, but I feel like at that point in your life, you're like, no, I'm not going to take mistreatment. I'm not going to take disrespect. I'm not going to take any type of verbal abuse just lying down at face value.
Yep.
And once I realize that, I do what I can to make to get out of the situation. In most cases, it's financially wise.
But that's the way I feel. But hold up. hold up, but that's the way I feel. What you know about being stuck in one place with no movement?
I do have another toxic trick. I have anxiety, or I have anxiety, and I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger. Of course, we have these households where it's like, oh, you're not really, this, so they just try to beat it out you, and then you just find other ways to cope. So my other way of coping was like picking, like either my eyebrows or like my skin or the hairs on my skin, something like that. Keep my fingers moving, kind of. But now I've taken up painting, drawing, sketching. They're all horrible, but it keeps my hands moving, so I'm not turning towards myself. I'm also learning to clear out my thoughts, which I feel like a lot of people do with music. So I would just get so lost in, the alternative, like the heavy stuff, like that, the screaming and the loud drums and the parts, just because, even though it's loud through my ears, but I'm not thinking of, my thoughts. I'm not thinking of like, this really hurt me or this really affected me. Another thing which helps is reading. I get lost in fairy tales and whirlwind romances and mafia bosses because it's something that I don't have to think about. And I've always been like that. I've written many stories on Wattpad when I was younger in high school. So, I just get lost back in that community. Anything that's not me having to spend as much money, since most of my issues were financial turmoil. So, I mean, now I have started practicing meditation. So when I feel like my feelings are hurt, or I feel like, oh, I'm finna yell, I'm finna scream, I just, take myself away from the situation, come in my room, meditate for a few minutes, find that center ground, and then go back out and try to handle the situation in a different perspective than I would have originally.
Yeah, I love that. I love that meditation one. I super love that music one.
Me and my daughter, since you showed us, she gets an attitude, go meditate. Go
That's
meditate.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking. You got me crunk as hell talking about telling that story.
I
do my 9-year-old that way.
Yeah, look, and this is the thing, because I didn't realize how traumatic you never realize how traumatic your childhood is until you're older and you have kids of your own, or you hear situations similar, like, oh my gosh, you had to go through that, and then it clicks that you're going through that, or you went through that. And I think what really clicked to me is, before I came to you with the meditation, was like, I was listening to some audio on TikTok where the girl was sitting down and her brother or her sibling, or in that case, was like getting a beating, and you heard, I hate you, I leave this place. And I just broke down crying, and I had no idea why. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want my child to have to go through that. Granted, she's a single child. She will be. I'm done with kids or having more kids, but I don't want her to go through that. And I don't want her to know that it's okay for, like violence. Granted, I will spare the rod. If it's something that's bad enough, yeah, of course, I'm not a saint. But the meditation has definitely helped us communicate more. It's definitely helped us stop acting off of emotion and started logically, So I am in love with meditating. I will tell her to sit down and meditate for 5 minutes. Then we come back and we're like, okay, so what did your anger tell you? What was it trying to tell you? Because I don't want her to think that her emotions are invalid, because that's what I've been told my whole. You shouldn't be mad. You shouldn't be angry. You don't have a right to dictate what emotion I'm having. You don't get to validate it or invalidate it. You can only address it head on. So when she calms down, ask her, what was your anger trying to tell you? What is something you want to communicate with me? And I'm not a teacher. I'm still learning a lot of this. But I will ask her occasionally, like, hey, is there anything that you would like more of? Is there anything that you would like me to do more with you or less with you? Or do you think I should have handled something better? Not that I'm going to listen to her wholeheartedly, like, oh yeah, I'm going to follow your instructions to a T. But it does help me get what's going on in her mind, what she thinks of certain situations.
I get everything you saying with that one. Yeah. Oh man, hell yeah. Especially that part about the when you opened up talking about the parenting and everything. I read this quote. I read this quote that said, every generation, every single parent fucks up. It didn't say the word fucks, but it said every parent fucks up because they're trying to prepare their kid for a world that no longer exists. And I thought about this shit, I was like, I'd be damn, that shit is real as hell. Every single time you have a kid, you're trying to prep your kid for all the shit that you went through and stopping the shit that you didn't have, all that type of stuff. And it's like, yo, the world ain't even like that no more though. All the shit that everything that we were swinging and banging with in the late 90s, early 2000s. Well, I guess for you, it would be the late 2000s.
Early
like
2000s.
that. It's like,
well,
yeah,
look,
the world
I
has
grew up
changed
at
so much.
2021. That's when I grew up. I didn't no longer had a childhood at that point on. So I understand.
Yeah, that's how that shit goes. I'm with you 1,000% on that. And I love how you are addressing the trauma in your own life by taking those meditative steps and putting that shit into action. Because I've taught that stuff to a bunch of parents, and I check back with them, and I can always tell the ones who are still doing it by how they talk about the relationships are and what they're doing with their kid afterwards. And the ones who aren't doing it, you can always tell because they just say shit like that. Yep, still hard-headed, still don't listen. I'm like, yo, but you supposed to be doing this shit with them. Like, you just can't be. You telling the kid,
you can't just go
this shit with them. Yep. This shit is all about that bond, because a bunch of us, especially Black kids, we grow up all the time with our parents telling us what to do, what not to do. Like, that's it. There is no sitting you down. I mean, I love my parents to death. Both of them were teachers and everything. So I love my parents to death. But yo, man, there was never a time that my parents sat me down. Kendrick, what do you want to do? Kendrick, how did that make you feel? I didn't have any of that shit. Like, I grew up the whole time thinking I'm just supposed to hold shit in and just tell everybody else what to do. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not the way it's supposed to be at all. Oh man, you hit the nail on the head with that shit. That's real to say.
Look, it is, and you have to stop me from starting to trauma dump. I don't want to trauma dump on here. But once you recognize, because I believe in generational curses, I really do. And I strongly believe that once you are willing to open up yourself to the general curses that came before you or that was bestowed, because you're cursed before you're born, unfortunately. You're coming in this family, you're coming into this world with this family who already has their toxicity out on display, basically. And which is why I was so thankful that my birth father and my birth mother gave me up and his grandparents adopted me, because I got to see love. I got to see affection. I got basically the perfect childhood. I was that spoiled Black kid with a pony. Like, I got everything under the sun I wanted. And yeah, there were some bad parts, but they didn't know. They couldn't, like I said, these are my great grandparents. They come from a much different time frame than what I was prepared for or what I was growing up in. And I got to basically a perfect example of a 2-parent household, functioning family. I got to experience that. I got that firsthand without, the baggage of my family or my generational curses, because I was a kid. I didn't understand it. It didn't exist because I'm taken away from my I want to say my direct descendants, but I was taken away from, it was like a pause. Like, oh, okay, we won't affect you now. We'll come back when you come back to reality. Because basically, by the time I was like, my earliest memories until I was 8 or 9 was basically like perfect, picture perfect. It was wonderful. And then the reality hit. And then I came to Florida. Okay. And that's when everything changed. I grew up in the South of South Carolina, a small town called Bluffton. You will pass it if you're not looking for it. And I swear there was only one other Black kid in my entire school. And this was a school in the South. So it was like from kindergarten all the way to like 7th or 8th grade. That was the entirety of the school, right? And I remember, and the reason why I know that it was only me and this other, African-American female girl was because her uncle came to pick her up and they pushed me in the car. And I didn't even realize that we weren't related until I got in the car. I was like, wait a minute, this car isn't my, my uncle doesn't have a red truck. So I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not my family. He's like, oh, let's just go back. And it was like, wrong person. Like, oh, we're sorry. We just assumed.
Damn.
They just assume. And granted, I did go to the Boys and Girls Club, and the Boys and Girls Club dealt with like different schools and different, so everybody was there.
Mhm.
And that's when I got close to Blackness. But even then, it was still very, I was in gymnastics, tennis, golf, dance. I was in everything they could put me in, swimming, everything they could put me in. I was there.
Active, busy, all what they call the active, vibrant life for a child.
Old man told me not come to a sleeper but a dream. So when you see that paint gleam, just know I'm living my dream.
Right.
And then riding horses, you ain't lying. You were living the life. It's amazing to even know, to at this point now be able to remember and know that that's when it was good, and to have some type of recognition of when the next step of trauma began. That way you can do something about it. And like I was saying earlier, it's cool as hell.
Yeah,
to know,
it is.
Talk about the trauma. It is healing when you are actually taking those steps to do something different. Teaching your kid meditating with your kid, knowing your kids look like all that type of stuff that like you're doing. Man, that is super mommy type of shit. All the way. I bow down to you all the way. All right, so check this out then. After the pandemic is, I don't know if it's coming back or not. I feel like it's coming back because of what's going on in China right now. But with the food shortages, they say coming and everything.
Be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah. With the food shortages and all that kind of stuff, this pandemic's supposed to be coming back. What are your thoughts on what you're gonna do with the schooling and everything? With schooling, with the pandemic, are y'all changing the diets? Has it impacted y'all in any kind of way yet? What I mean by that is this, like such as it didn't really hit us. Any of this stuff, we see all the news on the food shortages and everything, didn't really hit us until this weekend. My mama's birthday was on Saturday, and we're trying to go to the store and go to Kroger's and get the foods and everything. We realized like, oh shit, there is nothing in here. This is kind of wild out. Wow, it's like the last day of Thanksgiving shopping. There is nothing food stuff in here.
Oh, it's the hour before dinner.
Switched it up.
People done forgot everything, ran to the store and got it. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah.
And then with the schooling, we only let our kids come back to physical school because I had a son in high school, and he was just taking him and not letting him play any type of sports and just putting him in these remote karate classes. He hated it that whole year and a half. He didn't like any of it. So we let them go back this year, 2021. And man, if it ends up shutting down stuff again, that's it. I'm not, I am done with schooling all the way. How do you and M, what are your thoughts on schooling and stuff like that with this pandemic?
Okay, so this is hard because when the pandemic first hit, she was going to daycare and we didn't even know. It was like the middle of the week. She had a field trip set up. Like, oh, we canceled the field trip. Oh, and there won't be no school tomorrow. So we're like, okay, we'll just see back in 2 weeks. Never opened up. Even now, never opened back up. And then it was like, okay, well, she was in like Head Start. Then when, last school year was the kindergarten. Kindergarten is such a fundamental age or stage because this is when they're learning how to read. This is when they are, and I came to you with this too, like she was having problems with connection. And it was hurtful because I was so busy with work and cooking and feeding. Like I said, I'm a single mom. So it was hard for me to help her with that aspect. So what I would try to do was get her dad on the phone, have them FaceTime and have him help her. But that didn't always work out the way I wanted it to, where he would just try to help her pronunciate. Because once you learn how to read, you forget how you were taught to read. So we were just, it wasn't an easy process. And I'm not going to say that I'm the most patient. I am not. I have very little patience. And I won't give up on her. I will fight with her for as long as I can. But it's hard when you have dinner cooking. It's hard when you're trying to clock in these extra hours. And at that point, I was working at 2 jobs, just 2. So she missed a lot of fundamentals just through the computer. That did not help her as much as probably being in classroom would have. But then being in classroom wouldn't have helped her too much either because of the mask recommendation. So even though they were in the class here in Broward County, they were still going to their classroom 6 feet apart. They still had to have their mask on at their desk. So they weren't, taking it off at any point in the space. They were still wearing it at all times. Only at home, virtually, were they able to not have a mask on. So that was hard. This year, she's in first grade, and though we did struggle in the beginning, she is catching up to her reading groups. So I'm very happy with her. She does take extra classes or, tutorings at the school, which does help her. And she's coming home with books almost every day now. So I'm really grateful for that. And, beginning of the school year, there was a time where somebody in her school or her class caught COVID and they shut it down for 2 weeks. And we had to prove a negative test to get her back to school, which she passed with flying colors. And there hasn't been another shutdown since. However, they are lifting mask mandates, and they are having them vaccine at home, at school, which it's hard for me to, vaccinate. But we've been good about keeping our mask on. We've been good about maintaining our distance. We've been good about sanitizing our hands. We've still, even though you can go to Walmart without a mask, I still wear my mask. And people look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm in South Florida. There's a lot of Republicans around me. Well, not to get in political parties, but there's a lot of people around. And they're like, you don't have to wear your mask. And I'm like, but I'm wearing it. And if you touch me, I'm going to touch you. And you ain't going to like the touch I give you. So let's mind our business. Mind the business that pays us, and let's go on about our way. You're not somebody insignificant to me, right? But my daughter is significant to me. And if me wearing a mask keeps her safe, then that's what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, then turn your head. Nothing I can do about it. However, if we do go into another shutdown, that is going to be a little bit more challenging because, like I said, she's trying to catch up from the lack where she has from kindergarten. It's not the teacher's fault. It's hard for kids to focus that long in front of a computer screen. It's even TV. The girl could be watching TV and then 10 minutes later she's playing with crayons or something. It's hard for anybody to stay focused that long on anything, especially now in this generation. So if they do shut down again, we'll just do what we have to do. I'll just try to keep up. Her teacher, who is Black, is very good about making sure that Emily gets caught up, and I'm so thankful for her. She does these little groups, these little classes on the side just to get her, ready for second grade. She comes home with extra packet materials. I love it. I love her teacher. But another thing is food. See, now chicken wings are about $20 here, and I do not appreciate that. I do not appreciate that at all. And once chicken wings starts to get in that category of lobster and shrimp's expensive, that's when something needs to be done, because usually we keep everything frozen. I buy fresh produce, I separate it, and then I just put it in Ziploc bags because I'm not gonna take out the whole pack to defrost half or less than half of it because it's only me and her. But once we started going out of that, and then I started to place my usual, order, probably once every 2 months. And the price for my last order was $200 and some change. And the new price is almost close to $400. I said, oh no. Yeah, this, it wasn't exactly 400. It was $380.
That's close enough. Once you get over about 320 to me, I call it 400. I don't even play like my wife was. Yeah, I'm with you on that shit. I'll round up quick.
It's ridiculous, but at the same time, that's kind of my fault because I got complacent. So I was taught, we live in South Florida, you will get used to real Floridians keeping certain items stocked up in their house. My dad right now, I can guarantee you he has at least 20 cases of water. He will never, even throughout the whole entire pandemic, he's had 2 big industrial sized boxes of toilet paper, toilet tissue, necessities, you know what I mean? Because we're so used to having hurricanes. So we stay in that mindset of being prepared.
But hold up, but that's the way I feel. I got a beast mentality, dog. I eat until I'm full. Right now I'm in grind mode, so dog pass me a Red Bull.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's not hurricane season, or I don't feel like doing it this day. So we use what we have until it's gone. I went from having like 5 or 10 cases of water to 0. I have literally no cases of water, which is a sign for me to go to the store. And I try to get like certain things in bulk. Like I have a lot of things in bulk in my house, even though it's just the 2 of us. Occasionally 3, because I have like a friend or my cousin that comes over, and they, my house is open, but it's, look, as long as you're not a negative person, I don't mind. But like, yeah, it's hard. It's gonna be hard, because despite me having to pay for like food, which is not a problem, I will feed my daughter. It's the vegetables. It's the fresh stuff that I'm noticing is being really expensive. Like the fresh squash, zucchini, cucumbers, lettuce, spinach. It's the fresh stuff, the healthy things that are getting super expensive now. To the point where I was buying them frozen, like flash frozen, just so we can still have access to it. But of course, the nutritional value does diminish a little, not a lot, but it does diminish a little. And the texture changes. But you gotta do what you gotta do, because she can't live off McDonald's. That's what her dad does, but she can't. I have to introduce her to different food groups. I have to widen her palate, because and I'm not throwing her dad under the bus. Me and him are friends, but he don't eat lettuce. He don't eat watermelon. He don't eat any type of salad, anything. So like tomatoes, onions. He's very picky. He doesn't eat chicken with the bone in it. So he only eats chicken breast. Or if he gets like a drumstick, he picks the meat off the bone. Like he is super picky. He don't even eat pork chops with the bone in it. So he has to get like the pork in the line. So he's super picky. And I don't want her to go in with that type of palate. And the thing is, if you can afford to live that life, go ahead. Just, I don't eat like that. I didn't have the luxury of picking and choosing when I was growing up. It's either you ate or you didn't. And after a few nights where you didn't, you'll eat anything. So we're not going to do this
just
here.
Like my mama. If you're hungry, you'll eat it. Mama, I'm hungry. Go in there and if you're hungry, you'll eat it. Damn.
And then if you refuse it, it's peas and rice. And it's not even flavorful peas and rice. It's just
had beans. We had beans and no rice.
But that's what they were. Beans. Oh, see, no. At least we had some rice. And I love rice to this day. I love rice. Like I would just eat rice. Not, like we're lacking anything. Like if I cooked a big dinner and there's rice left over, I'm going to eat it. It's not going to go to waste. Same thing with plain pasta. This girl will love pasta. She loves pesto. Her dad won't touch it. So I feel like I'm doing a good job of introducing her to different foods and, value and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It's just keeping it up now is so expensive. So expensive.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about with that. I do all the, because I do all that. I do that anti-inflammatory diet. So even now I'm on day like number 60. I'm on day like number 64. No milk. No sugar, no alcohol, no cheese, no gluten. Like I'm at the point where I even like I don't even eat certain color apples because they have too much sugar in them. I'm trying to go that hard with it. Yeah,
you said no alcohol. You almost lost me there.
Yeah, man.
I'm not an alcoholic, but a glass of red wine and some good vodka.
I'm on that. I have never in my life, man. One time when I first started working, when we first met, I made it like 30 days in a row.
30 days, yeah, you did.
And once I came up, I was like, oh hell no, damn that, I'm gonna drink for the rest of my life. And at some point this year, it got so bad, and I knew it back in my head, like, man, I bet if I wasn't drinking this much, I wouldn't be as sick as I am. So since it was like, I think the last time I had a drink was February 12th. And when I woke up on February 13th, Super Bowl Sunday, I said, you know what? Hell no, I ain't drinking at all today. Everybody tripping like, dog, the Super Bowl on, you drinking? No, I ain't drinking shit. And I have stayed with it the entirety of the time. I'm saying all that to say that because of this pandemic, and like you're talking about those prices of food, people talk about the price of gas skyrocketing, and they ain't lying. Gas is going way up.
Oh no, they are.
Girl, queen,
They
man, those fresh fruits and vegetables. Oh shit! And don't let you bring a bushel of bananas home. It ain't gonna make it but 2 days before it starts to turn brown and shit like that. Yeah, man. Golly. As much as I feel like as high as the food is going up, for some reason, some kind of way, I feel like the shelf life is even shorter. Like it was always short because it was supposed to be fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff. But now I feel like it's even shorter than it used to be.
Yep.
Stay on my ass with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same way because why am I not like, oh, I'm good for potatoes. So I substitute a lot of like my starch for potatoes. And I know potatoes starch itself. So we don't eat just rice. We don't eat a lot of rice, especially now. So what we do is like roasted vegetables and a protein, like chicken, shrimp, whatever. So my potatoes, and I do not keep them in a dark place. They're in like a bowl on my counter in the bag because the smell of potatoes, like the rustic smell, I can't deal with it when I'm trying to cook. So they're still in the bag. But I went maybe not even a full week where I just was like, I'm burnt out. I don't feel like cooking. There's still a lot of stuff that, we frozen or what she can eat. That's fine. And I got up to cook Sunday dinner and my potatoes were like mush. I'm just like, what in the world is going on? Potatoes are supposed to last you.
Yeah. They're supposed
to. These do not last as long as they used to.
Yep. And that's with all them chemicals and stuff that they put in our food and shit like that here. Because I told you, when we went to Ecuador, we were down in Ecuador, we could get fresh fruit and vegetables for the entire 6-man squad for $50. And that'd be for the whole week. I mean, we got meat, the entirety of the food costs about $50 a week. We just come home and cook. Here, man, that shit ain't lasting. Like I tell you, bananas, man, you are not gonna leave bananas on your counter for a week because we had them fruit flies, they turn brown 2 days later, they turn them black 3 days later. They've turned into water and mush and soggy. Yeah, it's like, and all of the stuff is like that. Your apple, you bring them a bush of apples. 2 or 3, a bunch of them are gonna be messed up. And then the rest of them, you feel like you picking that like, okay, that one got a spot here, that one's soft on this side, and you trying to save those. You damn near gotta line them up in order to eat them. Like, okay, I can eat these right now. These I can wait till tomorrow. Man, that food game is killing the game over here. It is fucking with us over here. You said y'all do not do beans. Y'all are big on rice.
We do beans. I have a cabinet. I go to Sam's. I got black beans in there. Okay. I have black beans, pinto beans, red beans, kidney beans. Now the only thing that I won't or I haven't tried to make on my own is black eyed peas and lima beans. Because to me those have such a distinguished like taste.
Yeah.
That's just like something that my grandparents used to feed me so much that if I make it and it'll come out right, I want to throw the whole pot away. And I refuse to waste food like that. So it's like, it's better for me not even to try it at this time. But yeah, I have beans. The rice is very alternative. So I went from having like, you know how they have like the containers where you can just put like a 5-gallon bag of rice in. I have probably like a 2-pound bag of rice. Oh no, it's 4 pounds. It's actually 4 pounds because I got it from Sam's, jasmine rice. And I have not touched it in the month that it's been at home.
Oh damn.
Because I try not to feed her the same thing every time. Because kids get bored. They get bored. Yeah. And no lie, I do too. And she's a product of me. So I just try, Now we will have some pork and beans, some pork chops. Like, look, it has to be done for the culture. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I can't go cooking collard greens and, I can't do that every week.
Yeah.
I can't.
Still okay.
I've only done it like on June 19th. And you know why? June 19th is the only, I treat it more like we used to treat 4th of July than any other day. So we won't have 4th of July. Well, I won't really I won't do anything for 4th of July. It's like a regular day off for me. But June 19th to me is more of a 4th of July type of day for me. And I try to educate her about it every year, more and more. This year she learned about slavery. So that was interesting to interact with for a while. But no, I can't cook like that because it doesn't benefit us. It's not nutritional to us. It's more nostalgic than anything else. But it's still a good meal.
Yo, so that's the conclusion. That is the wrap up to DeShontay's part 1 interview. It is Tuesday. Part 2 will drop on Thursday afternoon. So if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Instagram, if you're on any of those social media channels, look out for DeShontay's part 2 interview on Thursday afternoon. Kendrick interviews, mindset over bullshit. Come on and rock with me.